And so we're going to look at some images here. And so we're going to look at ways we can kind of interpret photos and try to read the landscape or interpret what the image is showcasing. What kind of insights can we gain from just looking at this simple image here? And so first off, what can you tell me about this house? Where is this house? And one of the things is you can tell that this house was probably built before the automobile era. Why? No garages. You don't see any garages in this on this house. Other things, the open front porch, the breezeway, kind of gives the insights that this could be from the South. You look at architecture in the South, it tends to have a large front breezeway. Why? Because it's so freaking hot in the summertime, and this now allows a comfortable place to leave, especially when you think about, supper time, all the heat from the kitchen getting trapped in that house. It can be very, very miserable in the summertime. Other things that you can tell is this was probably built before electricity. You can see that as far as the thing sticking out the windows, the AC units, and so this was built before air conditioning technology really advanced. Knowing more about this place, this is where I lived. This is where I lived when I went to school in University of Tennessee, Knoxville, i.e. where Peyton went to school. And this one house at the time, and back in the 1800s and early 1900s, would have served a couple families, would have had servants who would have lived in the bottom and who would also be working in this house. Very, very wealthy. Now it's divided up into 9 small apartments for very not so wealthy college students. And so we can also kind of understand the change of time, how this used to be kind of a very wealthy area, and now it's essentially what we call a student ghetto for University of Tennessee. And so looking at places, this is North Wilkesboro Speedway, one of the places where NASCAR used to have a lot of its roots, a lot of its races at. And so if we see this picture here, you see kind of a lot of these open fields that surround the racetrack. These would have been filled with campers, filled with cars, and so two NASCAR events each year used to be hosted at this speedway here in this very small rural town in near the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina. And so for this city, for this town, this was very, very, very important economically, but also culturally. And so just imagine how full everything would be during these large NASCAR events. However, if we look at this place today, we can see the impact of NASCAR no longer racing here. And so one of the first things you see when you come off the highway is this gas station, which is now abandoned because it relied heavily on the traffic from the 2 race weekends that NASCAR had here at North Wilkesboro. Even more so looking at this place. This is even closer to the Speedway. One of the things, if you look at this is more of a modern looking gas station, a more modern service station here that once again, this is where you go for ice, this is where you go for beer, this is where you go for milk, this is where you would go for all those essentials and gas up and fill up during your weekend. Now that that's no longer there, you can see how this place economically has really started to deteriorate due to the loss of NASCAR. And what we see here is a smaller go-kart track, which is located right next to North Wilkesboro Speedway. So this track here would have been littered with kids and families and parents, and so now it's starting to rust, and you're starting to see the weeds come through and so forth. And so this used to be a community building area in which people would interact with each other here at these NASCAR. And so now those endless fields that used to be nothing but cars and campers for these races right next to the track are now just a place to dump and temporary house and mobile homes that we see here. So this area, you can actually see the old pathways in which still left over from those last few races at North Wilkesboro Speedway. This image taken in 2005, the last race being there in 1996. Here we have an aerial photograph of Indianapolis via Google Earth. and we can see all kinds of place characteristics. And so when we think about Indianapolis, yeah, we've got its latitude and its longitude, its absolute location. But in terms of its relative location, we can understand it's, first off, it's a big city, but it's a big city, it's pretty much the only major city in the state of Indiana. So the next nearest city would be Chicago, Cincinnati, Columbus, or St. Louis of significant size. But by looking at this image, we can then start to look at some place characteristics. What matters here? What is important here? And so first off, we can see the various athletic facilities. And so you can see in the top right-hand corner, Lucas Oil Stadium. Over somewhere else in the image, you can see Bankers Life Fieldhouse, where the Pacers play and where a lot of other sporting events take place. And so no doubt that in case of Indianapolis, sports, but more importantly sport events, definitely matter. And so we try to describe Indianapolis as a place. First off, we got to talk about the role of sports. Secondly, also what we see here in downtown Indianapolis is we see a lot of tall buildings. And if you look at the logos in a lot of those tall buildings, they'll be one of probably two different things. First off, the building we see right here in the center is the One America building. And so you see a lot of banking, a lot of finance, a lot of insurance. Bank One, the tallest building, Chase, the tallest building in Indianapolis is Chase, a bank. You also see other banks there, Regions as well. The other thing that you'd see in a lot of the tall buildings, you'd see hotels. And so like the Conrad, the Marriott, the Hyatts, the Hilton. And so all of those tall buildings all help to characterize this place as being not only a sports place, but also an area for banking and finance, but also an area for hotels. And that makes sense because of the sporting events, because of the conventions, because of all the tourism that's brought into the city. People need places to stay. And so thus we have a lot of hotel rooms. Finally, another thing that kind of distinguishes Indianapolis compared to other major cities is the fact that we have a lot of these monuments, a lot of war monuments and memorials. And so the dead smack center of this image, you see the circle downtown, the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. Oh, also over here in the bottom left, you can see a kind of a taller building on the bottom left. That's the war memorial, which is actually was built for World War I. So it shows you they were building war memorials here a long time before it became cool and fashionable. Also, what you see here more than anything is parking lots. And so because of those surface parking lots we see all over the city, that's also another indicator of this place. Indianapolis is a transportation, but more importantly, a private transportation and automobile transportation dominant city. So all of this, looking at this image, we can characterize the place of Indianapolis, a sports town, a town with lots of war memorials, lots of monuments, a town that has a lot of banking and finance. Also, we can see government. The state capitol building is also here in this image. And so all these things comprise the place of downtown Indianapolis.